Hey guys, it's Chelsea, and today I kind of just got a little inspired to tell a story about a really awful, traumatizing time. And it's a little bit personal. It's a little bit like maybe I shouldn't be saying this on the internet, but it's something I want to talk about just because it happened to me. It was awful, it was expensive, and it still affects me to this day. So I pretty much said that this is kind of like a girls only type of video. That's because I'm going to be talking about um, basically like a tampon defect kind of issue and just what happened to me and stuff like that. So, I mean, but guys can watch it, just like no judgment, because honestly, guys, this was such a traumatizing event, and it's not something to joke about, and it's not something to hate on someone about, because I didn't like want it to happen to me, and it did, and it was just an awful experience. So yes, today I'm going to be talking about getting a tampon stuck inside of me. Awful time. Okay, so yes, it's going to be a little bit personal, but I think it's something to kind of educate other girls and stuff about choosing like what brand of tampon to use and things like that, because I believe that there are some that are way better constructed than others, and that it's like, I'm just gonna get into the story, but definitely pay attention because this is supposed to be kind of advice driven. So this all started last year, which was my senior year in high school. um I, like, when I first got into my period and things like that, I just wanted to use pads. I was so scared of tampons. It's like, you can't, like, see what you're doing, and it's just a really scary, like, first experience. So anyway, I was pads over everything for a very long time, up until about high school, when I decided to get a little bit more active and join the cross country team and stuff. And you can't run with a pad on, it just doesn't work. Like, you need a tampon just because it keeps everything up there, and they're made for athletes pretty much. So got into tampons. Took me a while to get really comfortable, but eventually I became like a tampon girl. And I think girls understand what I'm talking about. Just like most girls, like especially like middle school into high school and stuff like that, just like tampons are so much easier. They're like quieter, like when you're in the bathroom, like changing that junk, and they're just a lot more discreet to like take different places. And like, so many people use tampons, but I never judged people that use pads. Like, if I heard like a pad in like the stall behind me, I'd be like, oh girl, I'm with you, like. But anyway, so got into using tampons, blah blah blah. So obviously I tried the Tampax Pearl, and when I was just kind of like figuring out my body and things like that, they just never really worked for me. Like, I don't know what it was, but every time I would try and put one in, it would be uncomfortable or something. Like, I pretty much just thought it was like the shape of the tampon just wasn't working. I didn't know what I was doing, whatever. So I discovered the Playtex Sport tampons, and those have, I wish I had them in front of me so I could show you, but those are banned from this house. But anyway, they have more of like a bullet type shape to them, not just like a straight. They're more of like kind of angled. So it just like fit with my body a little bit better, I guess, and worked and whatever. So good times, everything's good. Well, the only problem with the construction of those tampons is the fact that it has two very thin strings tied in a knot, and that's what you're supposed to use to take it out with. I've had times where like one of the strings broke and I had to use the one string, and it was like heart-wrenching, but none of them ever got stuck, and it was just kind of like, I guess it was like a bad one, or maybe I had it in too long, or blah blah blah. Always made a reason. But I loved those tampons, always got them, whatever, use them for months and months and months. Well, this was, I'm not exactly sure what time of year, but anyway, sometime during the school year, and I get home, and one of my favorite things to do when I got home was to like change all that kind of stuff, because like I would like change it around like lunch, and then the next time I would be like either practice, and then after practice it would be like at home, or if I didn't have practice it would be like right when I got home. So anyway, that was just something I did. Like when I got home, like I took all whatever I was using that day out and then went to the bathroom. Well, that day I go to pull the string out and it goes whoop, and I'm like, no way. Like I didn't know what to do. Like this is a girl that just like not even a full year ago just started using these. Like I don't know the anatomy, like I don't know what to do. So anyway, my sister is like in the medical field or whatever, and she was trying to help me and all this stuff, and she couldn't, and it was just like a nightmare. And I was just like, oh my god. And she's like, we're gonna have to go somewhere. I was like, no. Like I literally had my sister trying to get this tampon out, if you know what that means. Like me and my sister got very close that day. But anyway, it was just awful. And the problem, first of all, I'd had that tampon in way longer than I should have. Like when I got home was the deadline. And when you know, the thing about tampons, they're like kind of dangerous because there's bleach and things like that in them, which is why you have to change them like ever so often, because you will get things like TSS or worse, or you know, the bleach will come out and start damaging things down there and like not be able to have children. Like some serious stuff can come out of this. So you understand why I was so worried. It wasn't like, oh, I'll just go somewhere and get it taken out. It was like, oh my god, this thing has been in there way too long already, and now I have to like wait, and scary stuff. And just awful. And I was so stupid. I was gonna like try and put another one in, like all this stuff. Good thing my sister was there, because honestly if she wasn't, I would have made so many like stupid decisions. But anyway, so had a tampon just stuck in me, and I was just like, oh my god, what do I do? So I had to wait for my mom to get home, and then I call my friend, and her mom works at like a nearby hospital. I'm like, what do I do? Like, do I need to go in now? She's like, girl, you need to go in now. Like, you don't understand, like that is very dangerous, and like it'll get stopped at your cervix. Like tampons can't go past your cervix, but it's still just like the chemicals in them and stuff, you need to get it out. And I was like, god dang it, like so anyway, drag my mom to the ER, and we go there, get checked in and everything, which was so awkward because like at the counter, of course, there's like guys, and they're like, oh, what are you here for? I'm like, I got a tampon stuck. Like I like made this one girl that was like friend with my friends, like she called and like notified them because her mom worked there or whatever, and she like wrote it down on paper, so I didn't have to like be like, oh yeah, I got a tampon, so like, you know, so it was a little bit more private, so everyone in the room didn't have to know. So anyway, of course, you know, got checked in and stuff, got into this room. I literally got into this room and was not even in there for like 2 minutes. Like my sister got there a little late, and my mom went to go get her out, and they were already starting on me. And it was a doctor and this nurse come in, and this is where the traumatizing part comes in. They just tell me, get like you're about to have a baby. So I had to put my feet in the stirrup, let it all loose, and they were like, we're gonna go in. And they had this terrible tool. It literally looked like an alligator's mouth. They didn't use like a clamp to like open it up so they could like get in there. They just took this clamp. It almost looked like a hair dryer, and then it had like a clamp you could open up, and just shoved it in there. Granted, virgin, like, oh my god. And none of them even asked me that. They just shoved it in there and were kind of clamping at it. I'm sitting here, I screamed, like literally screamed. And they're like, why does it hurt so much? And I was like, no one asked if I had like ever even had anything bigger than a tampon in there. Like, what the hell? Like, something like this big is the only thing that's ever been in there, and you're throwing this thing that's like bigger than this in there. Like, oh my god, like not even like softly, just literally jam. Like, it was awful. And then so they found it, and then she went in there. Oh, it was so weird. She was like, man, I think I can get it with my hands. Then she goes in with her hand, and that's just weird. Like, that's just such a weird feeling. Like, this random person just going at it in there, and I'm like, oh, like, oh my god. And it was awful. Like, granted, I'm in extreme pain. Like, no one asked anything about my history, and anyway, so they finally get it out and everything, and that tampon looked disgusting. Like, it was brown and just like, oh, like that tampon I needed to come out like a way longer before that. So anyway, get it out. I'm like literally traumatized walking out of there. Like, my vagina hurt. And I'm like, I feel like I just gave birth or something. Like, it was awful. So then, time passes, and obviously, like, I'm still wanting to run and things like that, but it took me forever to get to a place where I could put a tampon in. But the problem is that to this day, this is a long time later, like maybe almost a year later, and I'm still having issues from it. So it's very traumatizing, because like, people don't understand when, like, if a certain part of your body like has some sort of trauma, anything that associated with that trauma, your brain will automatically just, like, now every time I put a tampon in, it's almost like the world is ending. Like, I'm just like, and you should see me taking one out. It's literally like, oh my God. And I've since switched to the Tampax Active, just because the Tampax Pro ones are pretty good, but the Tampax Active, they're constructed so well. It basically says on the box that they can't get stuck in you, because there's like the part that kind of out, the white part, and then there's a thing in the middle that's blue, and the string is actually intertwined into the actual like tampon. So for one to get stuck, it's very, very difficult. I think it would have to maybe get stuck on something, which I don't even think is possible. But anyway, so I feel so much better using these tampons than the Playtex ones. And what's really crazy is the bills that we got from the ER. Like, not me, but like my family probably paid like $500 for that whole like 5 minutes in there, which is crazy. And and we could have went to a walk-in clinic or something, but it was just like the emergency room is really close, and we didn't think it would be that much money for what it was. And what's crazy is that's not even all it was. Like, that's just what our insurance didn't cover. We got like 2 bills. We got like one bill that was like $100. We're like, okay, whatever, it's the emergency room. Then we get another one for like $300, and then I'm pretty sure we got another one. And I'm just sitting here like, where are these bills coming from? Like, anyway, awful experience, not only emotionally, but also financially. And I didn't have, like, on tampons, like, if you have the wrapper, it has like a serial number. I'm pretty sure I could have used that I didn't really want to sue Playtex, but it would have been used to be like, listen, like, I have these hospital bills, can you cover them, because it's from a defect in your product. But I never got the courage to do that, because first of all, I didn't even have the actual package. I did have like the hospital like record of it, but there's no way I could prove that it was theirs. Like, it wasn't like on the tampon, it said Playtex. So it was just kind of one of those lost causes. But mainly I was wanting to tell them, just because I don't want it happening to other people. Like, literally, it was like the string was never even attached to the tampon. Like, that's so scary, because it's one thing for a tampon to defect, but it's another thing for it to not even be put together properly, because it cost me and my family way more money than an actual tampon. So anyway, I switched to the Tampax Active. It's a lot better construction. Yeah, I recommend it so much more. And yeah, that was pretty much my traumatizing story. It's almost a year later. It still affects me. And it is something I will never, overall an awful event. And, now every time I use a tampon, I have to like double check. I like pull on the string, I'm like looking at it, and it takes way longer than it should. And it's just an awful experience that I don't think anyone should have to go through, especially someone who was so like new to that whole like area, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video.